All right, let's jump right in. We're about to tackle one of the biggest questions there is. What even is justice? And to do that, we're going to travel back more than 2,000 years to ancient Athens, right into the first book of Plato's Republic. We're going to watch the master himself, Socrates, take apart the three most common answers to that very question.
But first, think about it for a second. What's your gut reaction? What is justice to you? Being honest? Paying people back what you owe them? Common sense stuff? But what if those simple, straightforward ideas are actually, when you look closely, kind of flawed, maybe even dangerous?
Because that is exactly where Socrates is about to take us. And the setting for this whole philosophical showdown, it's not some fancy lecture hall. Nope, it's way more relatable. We're in a house, during a get-together, where a casual conversation is about to turn into a full-blown intellectual battle. So this is how the whole story kicks off. Socrates is just telling us about his day. He went down to the port town near Athens for a festival, but on his way home, he and his friend they pretty much get roped into staying for a party at the house of this wealthy, super respected old man named Cephalus, and that's where it all begins.
So Cephalus, who's lived a long and, by all accounts, pretty good life, he offers up the first definition. And it's simple, it's honest, it just feels right. Justice is just telling the truth and paying your debts. Be a good person, keep your word, give back what you borrow. What could possibly be wrong with that?
Well, this is where Socrates comes in, and he doesn't give some big speech. He just tells a little story, a hypothetical. Imagine you borrow weapons from a friend. He's totally sane at the time, but later he loses his mind and shows up demanding his weapons back. Now, according to Cephalus's rule, you have to return what you owe. But would that be the just thing to do? To give a weapon to someone who's gone mad? Of course not. And boom, just like that, the simple, common-sense definition completely falls apart.
At this point, Cephalus conveniently remembers he has to go deal with some sacrifices, and he just ducks out of the conversation. He leaves his son Polemarchus to pick up the argument. And Polemarchus, he's not ready to give up. He's got a new, tougher definition in mind.
Polemarchus basically argues that his dad's idea was close, but it just needed a little tweak. Justice isn't just about giving stuff back, it's about giving people what they're due. And what are they due? Well, good things for your friends and bad things for your enemies. This is justice as loyalty. It's about helping your team and hurting the other side.
So Socrates starts to pick this apart, piece by piece. First off, there's simple human error. We get things wrong. We might think someone's a friend when they're not and accidentally help a bad person. Or we might harm a good person, thinking they're an enemy. But then he goes way deeper. He asks, does a just person ever actually harm anyone? His argument is that when you harm something, a horse, a dog, a person, you only make it worse. Harming a person actually makes them more unjust. And this leads to a brilliant contradiction. How can an act of justice create its opposite, injustice?
And that's the final blow to the argument. A truly just person, Socrates concludes, doesn't harm anyone, friend or foe. Causing harm, well, that's the work of the unjust. And with that, the second definition just crumbles.
Okay, so the polite back-and-forth conversation is officially over. Someone has been listening this whole time, just simmering on the sidelines, getting angrier and angrier with Socrates' method, asking all the questions but never giving any answers. The whole tone of the room is about to change, drastically.
A guy named Thrasymachus literally launches himself into the middle of the conversation. Plato describes him like a wild animal, ready to tear them apart. This guy is a sophist, a paid teacher of rhetoric, and he is absolutely sick of these philosophical games. He's here to tell them what justice really is in the real world.
Thrasymachus has zero interest in ideals or virtues. He brings this cynical, tough-as-nails political realism to the discussion, and he's about to drop the most challenging definition of them all.
And there it is. Bold, provocative, might makes right. Thrasymachus just flat out declares that justice is nothing more than a word the people in power, the stronger party, use for the rules they make to benefit themselves. Whatever the government says is just, and it's always, always designed to help them.
Socrates, calm as ever, finds his way in with a simple question. Okay, he says, but rulers are human, right? Don't they make mistakes sometimes? What happens when a ruler makes a law that they think will help them, but they're wrong, and it actually ends up hurting them? If the people obey that bad law, are they still serving the advantage of the stronger?
So Thrasymachus tries to backtrack, saying a true ruler, in the strictest sense, doesn't make mistakes. He compares a ruler to a shepherd who fattens up his sheep for his own profit. But Socrates just flips that whole analogy on its head. He says a ruler's skill is much more like a doctor's. The entire point of the art of medicine is to seek the good of the subject, the patient, not the doctor. And this gets to the very core of Socrates' refutation. Any true art or skill, from medicine to shipbuilding to ruling, is perfected when it best serves the thing it's in charge of, not the person practicing the skill. A sea captain serves the sailors and the ship. A doctor serves the patient. So it follows that a true ruler must serve the people, the ruled. Justice, then, just can't be the advantage of the stronger.
Thrasymachus is left fuming, totally defeated in the argument, even if he's not really convinced. But notice something important here. Socrates hasn't actually given us a definition of justice. All he's done is clear away the bad ideas. And this is a really important place to be. Now we know what justice isn't.
So, after all of that, let's recap what we figured out. We know that justice is not just telling the truth and paying your debts. It's not about helping your friends and hurting your enemies. And it is most certainly not just whatever the people in power say it is. Those three common ideas are officially off the table.
And then, in a moment of classic Socratic wisdom, Socrates himself admits that he feels like he knows nothing. You see, the point of the whole conversation wasn't to find a nice, neat little answer. It was to show us that the things we think we know for sure are often just opinions we've never really examined. And it's only when we realize our own ignorance that we can actually start the genuine search for truth.
Which, of course, leaves us with that same massive question we started with. But now, hopefully we can approach it with a little more caution, a little more clarity. We know which paths are dead ends. The entire rest of Plato's Republic is dedicated to trying to find the right one. So I'll leave you with that to chew on. Now that we've cleared away what it isn't, what is justice?